estés, yo te pasaré a buscar. Esta noche nos debemos una victoria
Es necesario oír atentamente el siguiente contenido.
Hola amigos, ¿cómo están? Me llamo Carlos Erazo y bienvenidos una vez más a un episodio del proyecto G2G, un podcast para ayudarte a seguir a Jesús en nuestra cultura actual. Y antes de comenzar, este episodio es patrocinado por mi nuevo libro Sígueme, cómo seguir a Jesús, hacer libre a nuestra generación enredada en influencias ideológicas, y ya está disponible para adquirir en todos lados. El libro trata sobre cómo seguir a Jesús de forma práctica hoy en día, y algunos de los temas que tocamos incluyen el papel que juegan las redes sociales en nuestras vidas, su adicción, el consumo de la pornografía, las ideologías más populares sobre sexualidad, amor y sentimientos. También hablamos un poquito sobre la lucha de nuestra generación contra la ansiedad y la obsesión por uno mismo en la cultura que vivimos, y obviamente muchos temas más. Así que gracias para los que ya lo consiguieron, gracias por ir a comprarlo en Amazon y dejar tu review con 5 estrellas si te gustó. Y la razón por la que eso es importante es porque eso nos ayuda con el algoritmo de Amazon para que el libro alcance a más personas, y lo aprecio muchísimo a todos los que ya lo hicieron. Y gracias también por llamar a tu librería más cercana para que puedan conseguir tu copia física en cualquier ciudad o país en el que te encuentres. Hoy sí, comencemos con el episodio de hoy. El tema de hoy es algo que honestamente parece que muchos ya no hablan de esto. Y esto no es popular, este tema en particular por lo general, amigos, no es para que sea viral en redes sociales, pero yo considero que es central para tu vida si sigues a Jesús. Y el tema de hoy es el temor de Dios. Así que déjame comenzar por aquí. Cuando tenía 9 años, nací y crecí en El Salvador, y tuvimos un gran terremoto de magnitud 7.6 o algo por el estilo. Y como un niño de 9 años que experimentó como toda la tierra, la casa y todo lo que había en ella se sacudía violentamente de izquierda a derecha durante como 1 minuto y medio, yo estaba aterrado. Tanto así que recuerdo que mis piernas temblaban sin parar, porque algo estaba sucediendo que yo no conocía, no comprendía completamente, y era muchísimo más grande que mí mismo. Yo me sentía pequeño e impotente. Amigos, algo similar es como a menudo se usa la palabra temor en la Biblia cuando se trata de Dios. Hoy en día, muchos cristianos viven un cristianismo donde parece que la obediencia fuese opcional. Como que si siento el obedecer a Dios, entonces lo obedezco, pero si no, no. Y lo que tiende a suceder es que terminamos tratando a Jesús más como un life coach y menos como un señor. Pensamos que los mandamientos de Dios son realmente sugerencias. Pensamos que lo que la Biblia llama pecado son solamente pequeños errorcitos. Y tratamos a Dios de forma casual, como que si no fuera el Señor Santo quien es. Pensamos que si no sentimos como que tenemos que obedecer a Dios, lo hacemos, y si no lo hacemos, entonces no importa, todo estará bien porque Dios es
Atraviesa
amor.
el tráfico de autos con el mejor playlist.
The drive home sounds better.
El camino suena mejor con la Celestial 106.5. Atraviesa el tráfico de
No le cambie, porque a continuación comenzará un programa que bendecirá tu vida. Aquí en la Celestial FM 106.5. El siguiente programa es clasificación A, apto para todo público. Contenido E, e entretenimiento.
Toda palabra o punto doctrinal emitido en el siguiente programa es responsabilidad exclusiva del programador y no de esta radio.
Bienvenidos a Café con Hispanos, un programa que conecta nuestra fe, nuestros valores como familia, nuestros negocios y proyectos de ley que afectan a nuestra comunidad hispana aquí en Carolina del Norte. Entrevistamos al gobierno y a líderes de nuestra comunidad para dialogar sobre el trabajo que realizan en beneficio nuestro, actualidad y un sabor a dulce hogar. Somos la voz de nuestra gente hispana. Le damos la bienvenida al pastor Gilbert Pagan. Café con Hispanos comienza.
Cuando el mundo te inunda de fatalidad y te agobia la vida con su mucho afán y se llena tu alma de preocupación y se seca la fuente de tu corazón.
Bienvenido, bella audiencia, en esta tarde con Café con Hispanos. Aquí estamos en la cabina en Raleigh, Carolina del Norte. Con el abogado Daniel Bello, que una área de su enfoque es inmigración. Y vamos a hablar un poco hoy de varios casos que están en las noticias y tienen mucha atención. Y vamos a hablar sobre los derechos de la primera enmienda y lo siguiente. Thank you for listening in. We are in Raleigh in the studios of Coffee with Hispanics today. We want to share and have a conversation around a couple of immigration cases that are all over the news, and we want to talk about free speech. We want to talk about some of the rights that people may have or may not have who happen to be immigrants. We're talking a little bit about immigrant visas as well, the types of visas. And we have Daniel Bello, who is an immigration, one of the areas he focuses on is immigration. He's an immigration attorney. He's in the studio with us. And Daniel, thank you for being with us here in the studio today.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me. Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks
Listen,
for having me.
there's a lot of stuff happening in the media. And we are... it's almost 24/7 regarding these immigration cases, all right? And there's a couple of them, obviously, that we're going to try to cover today in the time that we're together, right? And that is the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, the Mahmoud Khalil case, and there's also Jeanette Vizguerra case. So there's three cases that hopefully we can kind of discuss a little bit about that and also discuss immigrant visas and non-immigrant visas and the like.
Yeah, First Amendment rights, due process.
Yeah, exactly. For First Amendment rights and due process. And there's a lot of confusion around the rights of some of these, these immigrants here. They have certain rights, right? But some of them don't have rights that people may think they have. Right. Hence, bringing you into the studio and having this conversation. And I want to talk a little bit about Mahmoud Khalil, and I'm going to share a little bit with the audience, kind of some information, some background. The facts as I know them. Mahmoud Khalil is the Columbia University graduate student in New York City. He initially came here to the U.S. on a student visa. Then he got married to a U.S. citizen. And then relatively quickly, within about 2 years after that, he got a green card. How he did that so quick, that's another conversation.
That's for another day.
Yeah, because he got it relatively quickly. And my understanding is there's a time frame for that and all that, but he got it somehow expedited. So he, from what I understand, as the court documents show and also media reports show, that he is a pro-Hamas supporter, anti-Israel. He led protests at Columbia University as a leader in the Divest from Israel protest that sought for the U.S. government and the university to divest any money they have in Israel and remove financial support from Israel. The university has money in Israel through the stock markets, pension plans, things like that. So from what I understand in court documents and also the media, he had a role in that. He was a leader in that. He got involved in the protest at Columbia University after October 23rd, 2023 attack on Israel by Hamas. So he got involved at that time with the protest. He became a negotiator between the Divest Israel protesters and Columbia University. So this guy was actually actively involved in these kind of protests. He was involved in blocking Jewish students from entering certain buildings on campuses, and his group did riots and vandalized buildings and things like that. Whether he was actually involved in the vandalizing and the buildings, that hasn't been proven. But what has been, there is documentation that he has been involved in negotiations with Columbia. He's involved as a leader with the pro-Hamas movement. So, and he has been out there picketing and protesting and mobilizing peoples and the like. So his group was also passing out leaflets on campus that said, "Murder all the Jews." This is the groups that he was leader of. They didn't say that he was doing it himself, right? But that he was involved, right? So that's the way I understand as purportedly the quote-unquote facts regarding his involvement in Columbia University's pro-Hamas, anti-Israel movement. And there's questions a lot of people have, right, around this being free speech. Then him being deported, right? Right now he's like in Louisiana, right? From what I understand, being housed at a immigration facility or jail in Louisiana, and everything's on hold regarding his deportation because there's some court cases going on. But can you share a little bit about, what you know about this case, but also, I'm going to share what I know, obviously. Right. And you're the attorney here, and the issue of this free speech concern and people thinking that, okay, just because you're in America, you can say whatever you want and do whatever you want. There's certain there's certain guardrails here. If you're a citizen, because you're a citizen and I'm a citizen, there's certain things that I can say, okay, as a U.S. citizen. Whereas if you're not a citizen, you're an immigrant on a visa, green card, you got to watch it. So can you share a little bit about your understanding of the case and free speech and that kind of stuff?
And it's hard to keep track of everything right now because I'm running my own firm. I'm a solo attorney, and I like to consider myself not a Democrat, not a Republican, but in the middle, pretty much, and unaffiliated. I'm registered as unaffiliated. Sure. So I try to watch both sides of the news, and it's a lot to keep track of. Let's start with free speech. Even as citizens, we have limited free speech, right? We can't defame someone. That's speech, right? If I go and defame you, that's illegal. So even as citizens, speech is limited. So I want to start off there. Even as Americans, we can't say anything. We can't incite violence.
Call fire in a movie theater,
right? Stuff like that. But this guy. So he was a resident, legal resident. I thought he was on a U.S. visa, so I learned that. I didn't know he was a LPR.
Lawful permanent resident.
So that I learned that just now. But the rights of people are limited, and that's why when you apply for immigration benefit, like when you're about to naturalize, if you have a green card, they ask you all those questions, like have you ever been supportive of the Nazi Party? Have you ever been supportive of a dictatorship? Have you ever been involved in killing someone? Have you ever been involved in kidnapping? So when you apply, they ask you like 50. Have you ever looked at one of those applications?
I have not. You do this. I didn't need to. right. But
they ask you like 50 things.
I got to look at one now. Go ahead. Okay.
They ask you, have you ever persecuted someone because of their religious views? Or so it's like 50 of those types of questions. So as you can imagine, if you say yes to one of those questions, you're probably going to be denied or questioned or interviewed, and you're going to have to explain why you said yeah. So that's where we start. For sure, legal permanent residents and non-citizens, anyone who's not a citizen, they can't just go out and and talk whatever they want, support a regime. I don't know enough about this guy, but a lot of the issues do seem to be the ones that are getting deported. This guy hasn't gotten deported yet. He's in proceedings. So we'll see where it goes. But a lot of the bigger issues are like these people that we were talking about earlier that were being sent, to El Salvador and stuff like that.
Sicat prison.
Yeah, I do have the visa revocation statute here, and it's INA section 221I, subsection I, which says that the Secretary of State has authority to revoke a visa at any time at their discretion. The revocation can be based on security concerns, inadmissibility, or any other discretionary reason. There is no requirement for a hearing or due process before revocation of the visa. But you could still apply for another benefit like cancellation of removal. So I imagine that is what's going on with him in Louisiana. We'll see what happens, but you do have a right to get a cancellation of removal once you are in removal proceedings. So that's also the big issue that we're seeing on the news. Like some of these people are being sent back without that. I think that's the big issue. This guy made the news, because he's a Columbia guy.
And all the protests on Columbia's university ground for pro-Hamas, and that's right. That's why he's on the news.
Yeah, and this stuff did happen before Trump, but there's a lot of and rightly so, a lot of attention on these cases because of Trump has been that's like one of his main things.
Strong immigration.
Day one, like very strong immigration. So Mahmoud, he's LPR. They definitely don't have the same rights as and like I said, even citizens have limited power or freedom of speech. So I mean, it's here. They have great deference on based on security concerns. And Hamas is on the terrorist list, obviously. If you can remember the Trump ban, which some call the Muslim ban of his first presidency, was based on the terrorist groups, the terrorist
security concerns.
The security concerns. Yeah. Although first it was just Muslim countries, and then he added Venezuela to it. It went up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said no, and then they tried it again with Venezuela. That way, it wouldn't just be the Muslim countries, right. And then Supreme Court said yes. Seems more legit this time.
So they expanded who they were going after versus identifying one particular group of people, making it look like it was targeting them only. It was they broadened their definition, and then that allowed the Supreme Court to say, "Okay, we're going to let you to do this."
Right? Yeah. So, we'll see where it goes with this guy. He is married to a U.S. citizen, but if they can prove, and they don't have to prove it. Sure. It's not like it's an issue of it's not like it's a criminal process where they have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt that he is a member or sympathizer of Hamas or helping them in any way. They don't have to prove that,
right?
But they can just say they had good reason to believe that he is or was. So definitely.
Can you read the statute where it said that the Secretary of State has the ability to remove visa status? Can you read that again?
So again, this is the Visa Revocation Authority. It gives the Secretary of State authority to revoke a visa at any time at their discretion. The revocation can be based on security concerns, inadmissibility, or any other discretionary reason. Again, that you still have a right to see an
judge.
immigration judge.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is what the term you used was you're going to appeal the cancellation of your visa. You used a different word. I'm just using the simple word.
Cancellation or removal. Because one thing is the revocation of the visa.
Right.
And then you place in removal.
Right.
And then that's a whole different process where you have a right. Well, recently, Trump is doing the expedited removal for people who haven't been here for over 2 years,
right?
Which is a whole different issue, which we can talk about. It's still developing,
right?
But yeah, he gets a lot of deference in that. The other thing that I think we touched on is the Alien Enemies Act. I don't think he cited the Alien Enemies Act for this.
For Mahmoud?
For Mahmoud. I don't think they did.
I think that the letter, there was a letter that was sent to the courts, and I haven't seen the letter. I don't think it's been public, but that they're using Section 237.A4C, Section I of the Immigration and Nationality Act.
Right.
Which says that immigrants can be deported by the Secretary of State, right, who is Marco Rubio, if the alien's presence in our country can have adverse foreign policy consequences.
Right.
And that allows for deportation of aliens who endorse or support terrorist activities. Now, Hamas is a designated terrorist organization, so Rubio, with his authority to cancel the visa of this guy was a student visa, now obviously he has a green card now, but he, canceling his immigration status because in theory he is, according to what the purported facts to the case are, he was really supporting Hamas on U.S. soil. Therefore, you're designated working with a terrorist organization. That gives me power to remove you. So that's kind of there is discussion that there was letter sent, and there's a couple of different places that have reported this, but nobody has a copy of the letter, but kind of supporting the argument that I'm using this under terrorism to remove this person.
And that's why it's so hot, because we don't know everything yet.
Right.
And that's why both sides are like speculating.
Right.
And I think we both are too. But we'll see where that one goes. I think for I'm not sure if we're going to touch on it, on these guys being sent to El Salvador. But we can talk about the other one. Was it the Kilmar one?
The Kilmar, Abrego, and I guess for the people who are listening, as we do this show in English, to close up this part with Mahmoud Khalil, is that the logic for Rubio using the terrorism designation that this person supported pro-Hamas, literature and policies and being here, that by allowing him to stay here, that shows to the other countries who are allies that we are supporting Hamas by allowing people who do this on our soil to stay here. So therefore, by allowing him to stay here, that has foreign policy consequences across the world for our foreign policy with Israel and other countries.
Right.
So he's using that
the argument,
as an argument that we need to let this guy out of here. So that's kind of like, apart from saying, okay, you're supporting a terrorist organization, your presence affects our worldwide policy regarding Hamas. That's kind of like the logic behind it.
Yeah, and by the way, there are other rules that residents can't break, right? Like, for example, they have to live here in the U.S. and not back in their own country or somewhere else.
Yeah.
If they overstay, if they stay outside of the U.S. for more than 6 months, they can be, their green card can be revoked. If they don't pay their taxes, their visa can be revoked. So there's a lot of rules that obviously citizens don't have to abide by, but residents do. So it's important to note that too. You can lose your residence for many things.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not, because there's certain levels of categories or levels of citizenship or legal status. Obviously, citizenship U.S. is number one. And below that, even though a naturalized citizen gets really all the rights of a U.S. citizen, but I believe that even under naturalized, there are certain things that if you're doing certain things, that could also be pulled.
Because you can't be a president either.
Right, exactly. You can't be president as a naturalized citizen, right?
And they can take away your citizenship if they find out you got it by fraud.
And you lied and something on your application, right?
Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah, where the citizenship I guess a test that if you are that if you lied in your application and you do something that's contrary, you weren't born here. So again, you have you can't a U.S. citizenship can't be taken away because they were born here. It's your right. You were born.
Well, now. Trump is trying to take it. Trump was trying to take it away, man. We'll see where that happens. We'll see where it goes.
But anyway, that's the second person is Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Kilmar
is the one that's in the news. He's the Maryland man, as the news portrays him. Husband with some kids here, wife that was deported to El Salvador. He's a citizen of El Salvador. Yeah. He's not a citizen of the United States, right? And doesn't have a green card.
He's on. Was he on DACA?
He got temporary status.
Oh, TPS. That's right.
Yeah, he's on some kind of temporary status, and he's got he's got Social Security number. He can work. You know, that kind of thing, because the immigration court gave him that ability, and gave him some protection to being deported. Right. But there is some concerns about him, and talk a little bit about what you know about that case, and him being deported. I mean, I got some information about him.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know. Like I said, it's hard to keep track. With all the news, man.
In federal court filings showed that Abrego Garcia, this guy from El Salvador, the one that's in prison in El Salvador, had fled El Salvador to escape gang violence starting at around 2006. Gang members stalked, hit, and threatened to kidnap and kill him in order to coerce his parents to succumb to their increasing demands for extortion. So they were after him. So what he did, he left El Salvador, came to the U.S. illegally in 2011, and went to Maryland, where he hung out with his brother, lived with his brother. He had a brother there, U.S. citizen, by the way, his brother. And then he eventually was arrested at Home Depot in March of 2019 with a group of other men who were looking for work at Home Depot. And the men that he was caught up with, some of them were gang members. Okay, so that's kind of the connection. So you're hanging out with these guys, therefore you're a MS-13 gang member. That's what the court said. The immigration court said that there was credible evidence, two courts from what I understand, that said that he had potential gang affiliations. But he was given a stay. He wasn't deported. He was given some kind of status to allow him to stay here by the courts. And he was given a work permit in 2019. So that's kind of like the legal part where he can work. And I'm assuming he got a Social Security card, got a driver's license, right? Yeah. You can get all that if you get a work permit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So he got a work permit, got into a relationship with his wife, that they've been married 5 years. They have a child together, and she has other kids from another marriage. So they're kind of like a blended family, biological children with his, and then she has some other kids. And now more information is coming out about him, that he has some domestic violence charges, but they were dropped, and also order of protection against his wife, put it out against him. Okay. Now, obviously, she's reconciled with him because he wants him to come back. Yeah. But that is a history that was hidden by the media. At least it wasn't reported. Through all of this stuff, now it's coming out. Right. Okay, so this guy is not necessarily as as clean as the media would portray him. What are the facts? These are the information. These are the facts that are out there already. There are court cases. There are documents that say he had. So that said, he was deported, right? And now he's in El Salvador. Supreme Court said what about this guy? They want him. What do they say? Bring him back?
Just April 10th, which was what, last week?
Last week.
Last week. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was 9-0. Was it a 9-0?
Yeah, 9-0.
9-0. They remanded back to the district court, federal district court, to clarify some things, specifically the deference that the president has. But I think that at some point they did say, you guys have to fix this because you guys admitted it was an administrative error. So this is different than the Mahmoud one because
Mahmoud was doing stuff. He was
right.
He was a pro-Hamas, potential terrorist ties, things like that.
And also in this one, they also admitted that it was an administrative error. So they said, oh, well, it's an administrative error, but he's, we think he's a terrorist, and he is a El Salvador citizen, and he's over there. So we're going to deport him over there anyway. So he's not like the Venezuelan guys who they're sending to El Salvador. But this one I think is more of a tricky one, where the court said you guys need to bring him back, and this is where the lawyers can get in trouble. Maybe not. It's a court order. A court order can't be violated even if you think you have authority to do so.
Right.
And so the judges yesterday said that somebody can go to jail for contempt, of court. But I think it's very important for the attorneys, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or unaffiliated, an attorney should know that they can't tell their client, hey, violate this order.
Right.
Or something along those lines, because there's the Constitution, there's the laws, but there's a little book of rules, ethical rules for attorneys. It's the rules of ethical, the modern rules of ethics for attorneys that say that you have to respect the court's decisions, and if you don't, you can get disbarred, or you can be disciplined. So any lawyer. I don't know what his lawyers are telling him, Trump and others, but lawyers, they can get in trouble. We'll see. I predicted during the first Trump administration that his lawyers were going to get disbarred, and they did. Right, a bunch of lawyers got disbarred, and I'm predicting again that, and this is what, April 17th, right? So I'm predicting that a bunch of his lawyers one of them I think got fired or quit. I think a bunch of his lawyers are going to get disbarred because you can't tell somebody to disregard a court order. Right? So I don't know what has been said by the lawyers, but if there's any record of them saying this or kind of pointing him to do that, they're going to get in trouble. Watch, mark my words. But I mean, this one's interesting because it's kind of an administrative error. It's different than the Mahmoud Khalil one. We'll see where it goes. We heard Marco Rubio when I don't know if you saw it when Bukele came over here. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
And Marco Rubio was like, the court can't do the foreign policy for the country.
It's one of the arguments they're making.
And he's an attorney, but he's not acting as an attorney in his position, I think.
He's giving his opinion.
Right, yeah. So we'll see.
Not legal advice.
But we'll see. That's very interesting as an attorney to kind of look at.
I think that one of the things with this particular case, whereas Mahmoud Khalil a little bit more clear, whereas his case, that the federal court, I forgot the judge's name, and then the Supreme Court said, you need to bring this guy back or turn the plane around, that kind of thing, and that the Trump administration, in the court's opinion, the federal court judge said that you violated my order, and therefore I may hold you in contempt and all that. That's what's happening right now. Right. But I think what the Trump administration is doing here with this particular case, and again, it's just my thought, is that they are. They designated MS-13 as a terrorist group, and they're saying that two other judges regarding his immigration status or court cases said that there's credible evidence that he was potentially associated with MS-13. So that terrorist designation of MS-13 and him in theory being connected to that supersedes the immigration court cases and saying that now this is a threat to national security. Very similar situation from a conversation point, maybe legal standing, to the Mahmoud case, where, in a sense, there's a foreign policy issue. This guy being in our country is a threat to our national security. We are going down this route. And I think that what the Trump administration is doing is trying to get some legal cases, some legal precedents on the power of the president's office regarding, protecting the country, tying that into immigration, and seeing where those cases go and get some legal precedent on the books that said that, the power of the president, he does have the right to do, I'm not saying he does, but he does have the right to do certain things. This may fall under that purview. That's where I think the administration is going with these particular cases. And Mahmoud is much more clear, concrete. This guy, Abrego, is somewhat there, but there's some, there was a court order to keep him here. And
that's the difference.
Right. So I think that's what the Trump administration is trying to do, is get some court decisions that they can hang their hat on going forward.
Right. So that might go up the courts too. But like I said, that's fine. But the lawyers, they can't bat a blind eye.
Right.
Because, like I said, there's a book that tells us that we have to respect court orders, and we have to And it's very clear, and all attorneys have to follow it. And it says the remedy for the punishment is you can get disciplined, whether it's disbarment or not.
Right, disbarment is the highest.
Right,
penalty. It'll probably be discipline.
Right,
potentially.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, you're saying that potentially that if his lawyers in the White House or in his circle are telling him verbally to disregard the court order because we believe that you have legal standing to ignore it, that's a problem because you can't ignore a court order, even though you can litigate it later.
Right.
You gotta say you gotta what do you call it? Comply.
You got exactly. And even if the court order was in the lower court that got up to the Supreme Court and then remanded back. At that point, when the order was given in the lower court, it's still an order. You can't violate that order. Like I said, I predict that if attorneys are on record telling him to, or telling anyone to disregard one of those orders, they
could have some challenges, some issues.
I'd put some money on it that people are going to get disbarred. So you'll see. Mark my words.
I got you. Gracias, audiencia, porque nuestro señal fue expandido. Ahora estamos saludando la gente y el pueblo que se encuentra en Apex, en Cary, Holly Springs. También, we're welcoming our audience that we've expanded our radio signal, and you can now hear us in Apex, Cary, and Holly Springs now. And that happened about a week ago. Now we've got more coverage. Tenemos más cobertura en la área de Wake County. En Fuquay también. You can hear us in Fuquay, certain parts of Fuquay. So you're going to be and Morrisville, a little bit Morrisville near the airport. You can hear us a little bit over there as well. So just letting you know that we've expanded our signal, expanded the Café con Hispanos program. We've expanded the signal in partnership with La Celestial. We work together to do this together, to expand the signal, get another tower, so that we can get information out to the Hispanic community, and also the people who are listening to us now in English. We're going to try to do our programs a few times a month in English as well as in Spanish, so that the English audience can also hear some of the content like this, what we're doing today, regarding these cases. A lot of people had questions about free speech, the immigrant visas and things like that. So I want to get to the last person, but can you talk a little bit about the non-immigrant visas and the resident, green card, and the difference between the student visas and the difference between those visas, and then we'll get to the last person, which is Jeanette Vizguerra, I think her name was, and she is an activist that was arrested, and she was also had deportation orders and illegal here. But we'll get to her. So talk a little bit about the visas.
Right. Yeah. So you have the two types of visas really. You have the ones that are for immigrants, which are for people who can have immigrant intent when they come in, meaning they could adjust status. There's a pathway to citizenship, and then there's the non-immigrant visas like the tourist visa or a temporary worker. Like the
ad worker, H2BA, H2B. Okay.
Those there's no pathway to citizenship, and you have to go back. And then there's obviously residents, which is legal permanent resident, and then you have a bunch of temporary status like TPS, DACA, other deferred actions, and then Biden created the parole for the advanced parole for Venezuelans, which is kind of also like a temporary type deal, where he said, hey, you guys can come by, you download this app on your phone, and you guys can upload some like your record, and then you can come in and claim whatever you want to claim, asylum. So that was you see, I also criticized the other side, so I'm criticizing Biden too.
No, I got you. No, that's fine.
Which was a mess too. And so those are the statuses that there are. The courts have said that these people, whether they're immigrant intent, whether they have immigrant intent or don't have immigrant intent, or they're resident, they do have due process rights. Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment. They do have that, but that's more of a criminal type thing.
Not with the visa.
Immigration is more of a quasi-criminal type law, quasi-civil, quasi-administrative. So it took the U.S. a lot of decades to get to where we are, right? To give some sort of due process to immigrants. I took in law school. You don't have to take immigration law. It's not a requirement. I took it as a elective. And there was a famous case about this Japanese girl who came here on a visa, and that was this is in 1901, so over 100 years ago, where they kept her on a boat, and there because I think she was doing the same thing. She was like protesting and stuff like that, and she was believed to be like a public charge, and they were like, hey, she's gonna be a public charge. What do we do with her? They couldn't find out what to do with her, and they just left her on the boat. Eventually the Supreme Court said you can't do that, and she's got a right.
You came on a boat. That's where the term came from. Go ahead.
Right, yeah, and they said she's got due process. She's eligible for a habeas corpus because then it turns into punishment, right? So immigration can be a punishment once you're incarcerated or held for too long. Yeah. So it's very interesting to look at these nowadays when we had these cases 100 years ago, over 100 years ago. But yeah, I mean, everyone has the Fourth Amendment right be protected at the unreasonable searches and seizures. Fifth Amendment, you can't be you have a right to remain silent. You can't be forced to incriminate yourself. And then the 14th Amendment passes that every citizen has to be treated the same. So it took us a while to get to where we are. But yeah, they do have. We go back to the first question we started. They do have rights. They do. And I don't know if you've seen this meme lately. There's a meme, a picture of Justice Scalia, and I think it's RGB.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, RBG, and they both agreed that the Bill of Rights applies to undocumented immigrants. But like I said, immigration is it's a little different.
It's quasi-civil, quasi-criminal. It kind of crosses.
Yeah, because you're holding people.
Right.
You're holding people in a cell. So it crosses into criminal at some point.
Yeah.
And then you get into the cruel and unusual punishment issue too. And I mean, this stuff's still evolving today.
Right.
Very much so. So and the president does have a lot of deference to move in the immigrant and foreign policy realm.
Yeah.
That we have to remember that the Congress is the one who makes the law. The president can't make law. Yeah. They can only move with executive orders. They can only move within the realm allowed, the authority allowed by Congress.
Right.
So, I mean, Biden challenged it. Trump definitely has challenged it. We'll see where it goes. But that's the beauty of this country. That's the beauty that we have checks and balances. The courts checked it, the other two. And then we didn't touch on the Alien Enemies Act, but I think the Trump administration has quoted that as I don't know if they're very strong on it, but that's the statute that was used to incarcerate the Japanese during World War II.
Yeah.
But remember the branch that has the ability to declare war is Congress. Not executive. So deeming deeming Hamas or any other organization as a terrorist group it's not as strong as being at war, right? There's a difference. So I have heard this Alien Enemies Act being quoted during Trump. I don't think it's as strong because you have to be in actual war.
Right.
And he's like, well, we are. It's a war against fentanyl.
It's where there's an invasion happening in our country, and these people are coming in unchecked, all that. That's what he's saying. It's an invasion.
That's what he's saying,
and that becomes war.
Yeah. So I think quoting the Alien Enemies Act, I think that's less stronger than the terrorist path, deeming people terrorists. I think that's a stronger argument because he has more authority there, and he can only act on the authority that the laws give him. Right. So we'll see where it goes. It's I mean, I was undocumented. I was DACA. My dad always told me, "Hey, man, just follow the rules." And he told me, "Hey, don't be careful what you speak. Careful who you hang out with." And that's what I tell my clients always. If you're here, you have a right to ask immigration. Even if you're here undocumented, you have a right to ask him for a benefit, right? So, well, and then this question about hey, should we register to the registry? Right, that just started now in April. And what I tell them is I can't tell you to ignore it because I'm a lawyer, so I can't tell you to break the law. But definitely go get a consultation and see if you qualify for something, for some relief, immigration relief. Yeah, but we can talk about. I don't know this third person.
Jeanette.
Is this a newer case?
This is Denver. She's a activist in Denver, and she had gotten deported for having a fraudulent Social Security card with her name and birth date, but somebody else's number on it. She was deported in 2009 or 10 or something like that, but turned around and came back to the U.S. again. She has been living here ever since then, but she became an activist in Colorado, and Hispanic immigrant activist, and mobilizing people and all that, and speaking in public on stage in front of hundreds of people and the like, and saying that I'm an illegal alien, I'm this and that, we have a right to be here to protest. So she's basically saying, raising the banner of we have certain rights, we have the right to be here, we should be given green cards, given act. So she's an activist, meanwhile publicizing that she's here illegal.
Yeah.
So I mean, from a common sense perspective,
right? Yeah.
You don't raise the flag and say, okay, ICE, here I am. And that's just me, my opinion. Keep quiet.
Whether you support her or not, whether you support, it's a common sense to Yeah,
keep a low profile.
Yeah, I heard an attorney the other day tell a group of immigrants. They asked them. It wasn't me. They asked him, "Hey, should we register to the registry thing?" And
the CBP app thing. Yeah,
and he was like, "Let me answer this way." He said, "If you're in the shadows, they can't see you, but if you come out to the light, they'll see you." So this is kind of like that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, they're not citizens. I knew when I wasn't a citizen. I mean, that I had to be careful with my words. I think there's a lot of light being shown on these cases right now. They're very hot. I think the Abrego one is the most interesting one.
Because of the court orders and all these kind of things, and the federal courts involved, and
and the lawyers,
maybe counseling the president, and okay, gotcha.
The Mahmoud Khalil one and the other ones, they're hot topics, but we just went over the statute which allows the government,
the Secretary of State, to do that,
to revoke their visas, whether they get a fair shot at seeing an immigration judge. That's another issue. So there's multiple issues. It's not just the revocation. It's not just the deportation. There's a ton of issues. And then there could also be, like I said, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment issues.
That's right.
When they approach you, right? Because they can't just approach you just because you look like you're from somewhere else.
Well, that's profiling, right?
Right. So
that's illegal.
There's a lot of issues. Right. It's a hot topic.
Yeah.
But to boil it down, it's yes. If you're here on a visa, if you're a permanent resident or anything other than a citizen, you have to be careful. You don't have the same rights. You don't have the same First Amendment rights. Can't vote. You can't you can't serve on a jury. You can't hold office.
Can't be president.
You can't be president. Even if you're a citizen, right?
You can't be.
I can't be president. I'm a citizen. I can't be president.
You're a naturalized citizen.
I'm a naturalized citizen.
Naturalized citizens can't be president.
So there. I mean, I'm sure there are a bunch of violations going on.
Yeah.
Because of the individual officers too, right? There's bad apples too.
Right.
There's good apples, bad apples. So
that's right.
It's crazy, but attorneys are, I think, the best line of defense for rights violations. I have faith in this country. I think it's the best country because of the checks and balances. So we'll see where this stuff goes. Maybe we could have another one of these in the summer.
Yeah. And see where everything landed.
And see who got this bar.
Another conversation. Yeah. Well, we've been talking to Daniel Abrego, who has a law firm here in Raleigh. He also has a show here on Saturdays from 12 to 1. Is that your show, or from 1 to 2?
The 1 to 2. 1 to 2 on Saturdays.
Yeah, okay. So he has a show here on the radio on this program from 1 to 2 in the afternoon. It's in Spanish. Discusses immigration issues, traffic, personal injury, all types of different things, legal. So thank you for being in the studio here again to share with the audience your thoughts on some of these cases and what's going on here in the U.S. regarding immigration. And again, thank you to the audience that's listening from Apex, Cary, and Holly Springs in our expanded area, and also Fuquay as well, and also Morrisville. We've expanded the signal for our program, but also for the radio station in partnership with them.
For the rich, the rich Latinos.
That's right. For the rich Latinos in Morrisville, and Holly Springs too. By the way, I live in Cary too, but I can hear it there. So thank you, audience, for listening in. We will do shows like this that are in English for our English audience, and we will be here next Thursday. We will be talking next Thursday also an English program on the Hispanic vote in North Carolina. We're going to go into some of the weeds and some of the details about the Hispanics and their voting preferences and strategies in North Carolina. Thank you for listening in. Gracias por audiencia, por estar con nosotros, escuchando nuestro programa aquí en la cabina en Raleigh sobre estos casos de inmigración y la primera enmienda y los derechos de los inmigrantes o los derechos que no tienen los inmigrantes. Gracias por sintonizarse con nosotros y vamos a estar con ustedes el próximo jueves. Bendiciones a todos.
Thank you.
La plenitud que tu alma necesita. Puedes sentarte a sus pies y cada día tener una nueva canción y nueva vida. A sus pies hay paz.
Gracias por sintonizar Café con Hispanos, la voz de nuestra gente hispana en Carolina del Norte. Si desea contactar a nuestro conductor Gilbert Pagán, llame hoy al 919-931-4597. 919-931-4597. Síganos en nuestras redes sociales como Hispanos del Sur. Puede enviarnos un correo electrónico a connect@hispanosdelsur.com. Hasta pronto.